Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. It is Best Bets with BetSided. He is Iain MacMillan. I am Matt Verderame, and we are here to discuss a playoff game, the divisional round, the top-seeded Kansas City Chiefs, and the number 4 seed, Jacksonville Jaguars, after we saw a week of chalk in the AFC wildcard round, which makes it sound like it was really boring. It was not. The AFC wildcard round was insane. But all 3 of the top seeded teams advanced. And so Jacksonville comes back to Arrowhead. These teams saw each other in week 10, and the Chiefs won 27-17, despite turning the ball over 3 times and giving up an onside kick. Iain, you look pumped about your Falcons with the hat and the helmet in the background. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm just realizing now I'm on a Chiefs show now wearing a Falcons hat and a Falcons helmet in the background. Our season's over. Yeah, I'm happy about where the Falcons are, but I'm ready for some playoff football.
Okay. All right. So, look, we get into this as everybody knows, whether it's been with you or with Ben Heisler this year. We've broken down these games. Let's just start off the top. So the Chiefs are favored by 8.5. The over/under that I saw, the total is 53. So Kansas City, the biggest favorite of the weekend. It's close. The Eagles are laying 7.5 against the Giants. I didn't even look. Is the Chiefs the highest total of the week as well, or is that Cincinnati and Buffalo?
No, I think it is the Chiefs. Let me confirm that really quick.
Okay. Didn't mean to put you on the spot there. I feel like the Chiefs usually are involved in the highest total of the week.
Their total is 52.5, and yeah, so that is the highest total by about 4 points.
Okay. All right.
Total has come down in Bengals-Bills, come down a couple points.
It's probably because of the weather. The weather's not supposed to be great in that game. Some sleet, some snow. In Kansas City, for the record, the weather is supposed to be right around the temperature of about 35 degrees, and you are going to get a dusting of a wintry mix. At least that's what they're calling for right now. A little snow. All right. What are your initial thoughts on line and total as we go into this game?
So, yeah, my initial thought, the Chiefs are favored, rightfully so. I actually placed a bet on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl this week, 3-1. I think the Chiefs are the most complete team in the NFL, but the spread does concern me a little bit. The Chiefs, and ever since Patrick Mahomes has taken over quarterback, and ever since he became the Patrick Mahomes that we all know, actually has not been a good team in terms of covering spreads of 7 points or more. I'm just trying to find it here. I have it somewhere, but yeah, 6-10-1 against the spread overall this season. I'm going to find the stat here in a second, but also ever since, I think it's over the past 3 years, have not done a good job of covering touchdown spreads. So that does concern me a little bit.
Yeah, that started the second year they went to the Super Bowl in 2020, where they had that, like, they were unbelievable early in the year. They were not only winning, they were covering every spread they had. And then the second half of the year, they kept winning, but they would give up these backdoor covers.
Yes.
They'd give up like late points. And I remember it drove Chiefs fans nuts, not because they weren't covering, but because they would let teams back in the game. And then last year, of course, they started out 3-4, and they had all these weird games to start the season where not only were they not covering, they weren't winning. And as you mentioned this year, like, I always say this about the Chiefs, and it's not just the Chiefs, there's a few other teams that like this too. The Chiefs are always going to have an inflated line because of who they are, right? Like, Vegas is looking at this and saying, if we made this line 6.5, everybody's going to hammer the Chiefs, because then you're getting that touchdown, right? So you've got to put it over that line. And then there's the Mahomes factor, and it's Arrowhead, and Jacksonville's not a public team. And so you're going to raise the line up a little bit. It's interesting. I was looking at this up earlier because I was curious. So in the playoffs, they've only been in the wild card round one time with Mahomes. They've always had a bye otherwise. It was last year. They played Pittsburgh. They were the 2 seed. They were a 14-point favorite. Biggest favorite. At least it opened as a 14-point favorite. I forget where it closed. But they did cover the spread. They won 42-21. In the divisional round, Mahomes is 4-0 straight up. He is 3-1 covering the spread. The only time they failed to cover the spread was when Mahomes got hurt in the game against Cleveland. They covered it last year against Buffalo, winning in overtime. They covered it in one of the great covers, Iain, of all time. They were down 24-0 to Houston and covered it, which is One of the great covers ever. And they also cover, they beat up Andrew Luck in his final game. They beat him 31-13. So they've actually been very good at covering in this round, but you're right. During the course of the season, the last couple of years, they've not been a team that you feel good about covering spreads with.
Yeah, I did just find the stat here. Over their last 3 seasons, 11-18 covering the spread when they're favorites of 7 points or more. So that's a 38% cover rate over the last 3 seasons when it's over a touchdown spread. But to your point, they have been good at covering that spread in the playoffs. You mentioned the 14-point spread last year against the Steelers. Although I think I even tweeted it out last year, like that Steelers team was terrible. Like I even think I was on the Chiefs to cover that spread that game. So, but it is a little bit concerning, and it's tough because when you look at the Chiefs, and a lot of bettors do this, when you think of the Chiefs, you think of Patrick Mahomes, you think about that offense, how they can score at will, all the crazy things Patrick Mahomes can do, but they have some things, especially defensively, that kind of hurts them in covering these big spreads. And the number one thing that I'm looking at when the Chiefs defense, not only for covering the spread, but if something's going to cost them in these playoffs and for them to lose, their biggest weak point is red zone defense. Yes, they're terrible in that area. Second worst red zone defense in the NFL. So not only can that bite you in covering spreads, that could bite you just to even win the game. So I think that's a huge reason, because even last year they had a terrible red zone defense. I think that's a huge reason why they struggle covering these big spreads, because if you're not keeping teams to field goals when they get close to your goal line and they're scoring touchdowns, 65, 67% of the time, it's hard to cover a 7-point spread, or in this case, an 8.5-point spread. So red zone defense is certainly something to keep an eye on for the Chiefs here.
No question. The Chiefs are funny because when you look at them defensively, you're right. They're terrible in the red zone. Yeah. The Chiefs have 2 massive weaknesses, in my opinion. The red zone defense, no question. They're terrible. I do appreciate the Colts being worse than them, because the Chiefs were the worst all year long, and then the Colts got involved in Week 18 against Houston. And the Chiefs' special teams is a friggin' nightmare. Like, they're very good at coverage units. Like, their coverage is great. Their coverage is not a problem. Their kickoff return is not a problem. Their punt return unit is one of the most comically bad units I've ever seen in my life. Can't block anybody, and they fumble the ball every time they touch it. And then Butker has been very shaky on field goals. He's been pretty good from inside 50, but his calling card was always great over 50. This year, I believe he's under 500 on these kicks. He's missed some extra points. So they give away points there. Like, that could be, I could see a game where they win this week 28-20 and they missed like 2 kicks. They missed a field goal, they missed an extra point, and you're like, well, that would have covered it or something. So the funny thing is, defensively, they're actually in some metrics really good, which I think would shock people. Like, they're top 10 in yards per play against.
Yeah.
They're good on third down.
Yeah.
They're good against the pass, like yards per attempt. Now, they give up a lot of passing touchdowns, but they're really good just on a per-play basis against the pass. They're one of the better defenses in the NFL. All that stuff, I think, would surprise people nationally. You'd be, really? But they actually are, which even surprises me to an extent, because you figure with them there's going to be garbage time and they're going to allow some yardage and trade time. I think the defense is really going to decide whether they cover this spread or not, because I think offensively they're going to score a lot of points in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, their offense, if you look at all the offensive metrics, basically top in the NFL. I mean, just yards per play offensively, getting 6.4. That's 0.3 better than the next best team, which is the Bills. I do need to admit it, though, because I'm sure some people watching this stream watched, I think is our betting stream that we did before week 1, way back a few months ago. I did say the Chiefs defense was going to stink this year, and I think I said they're not going to win their division. So hand up, I was wrong about that. I am back on the Chiefs train. Like I said, I did just bet on them to win the Super Bowl, but I did want to admit I didn't think their defense was going to be as good as they have been. And you disagreed with me, and you were right. So hats off to you. But their red zone defense still is.
Oh, red zone defense. They might as well put you and me in there. Listen, I think the biggest thing for me was going into the year was I really believed that they've drafted so well in recent years. I believed that they would find players who could come in and contribute. And to be honest, George Karlaftis early in the year, like, he had half a sack for like the first 10 games. Now, he got a lot of pressures, but he couldn't convert them. Now he's had 6 sacks in his last 7 games. Trent McDuffie got hurt. He was out for 2 months. He's been great since he's come back. Chris Jones is, even by his standards, had an unbelievable season. And so, I mean, listen, it's all kind of coming together for them right now. They're playing their best ball defensively. Yeah, right now they're seventh in the league defensively in yards per play. They are second in the league in sacks. They're fifth in pressure rate. By the way, kind of shockingly, right behind Jacksonville, who gets pressure, but Jacksonville doesn't get any sacks. It's kind of Jacksonville's had a hard time finishing. They're toward the bottom of the league. They only have 35 sacks. Kansas City is 55. But the Chiefs, the one thing I think is notable in this, so Kansas City's blitz rate early in the year was really high, and that's how they were getting most of their sacks. They just blitz, and they were really good and effective in their blitz packaging. Their blitz percentage has plummeted over the last 2 months. And it's because they don't have to, because Karlaftis and Dunlap and Frank Clark's having the best season he's had in years, like Jones. So, like, they haven't had to blitz as much, and that's helped their passing numbers now. If you look at their yards per attempt given up, they're sixth in the NFL at 6.7. So, it's been a much better defense. Yards per completion, they're fourth in the NFL, so they've done a nice job there. And then on third down, which obviously is always a big number, they're pretty good. They're 13th, so they're not great, but they're respectable. They're pretty solid. What is your biggest concern for the Chiefs going into this game? Whether you want to talk about it from a covering perspective or just a straight up perspective, or how do you see a concern in this game for them?
Well, I think it's what I said earlier was a red zone defense, but I'll bring up another area that does give me a little bit concern with the Chiefs, not only to cover but to win the game. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. But their turnover margin hasn't been great this year either.
No.
It was actually a huge reason why I bet on the Dolphins to cover last week, and they did, and we saw it against the Bills. The turnovers, you're either giving up points or in some situations, with the Ravens, not only are you giving up 7 points, you're giving the Bengals 7 points with that 99-yard fumble return.
Yeah.
We saw it with the Bills last week. Now, the Chiefs aren't as bad as the Bills are in terms of turning the ball over, but their average turnover margin per game, minus 0.2, which is tied for 22nd in the NFL with the Titans. Now, minus 0.2 might not seem like a big number, but that means in an average game, their turnover margin is in the negative. And turnovers play a big role in not only winning games, but covering spreads. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this as well, because that would be, to me, it's red zone defense and its turnover margin are the two biggest concerns I have for the Chiefs.
My biggest concern with the Chiefs is they just have one of these games where they're out to lunch for half the game and they're not honed in. Now, I will say this about them. I will give them credit for this. They have been like this for years now. Not so much with the negative turnover differential, but they've been sloppy at times. They'll take penalties. This year they've been better with penalties, but they've been sloppy. They'll leave teams in games. Usually, come the playoffs, they're pretty locked in. They usually come out and handle their business. I mean, really, the only game I can think of in the Mahomes era where they came out and they were just woeful early was that Houston game that they ended up scoring 51 points in. I mean, you could say the Super Bowl against the Bucs, but the Bucs, the Chiefs had half their team healthy for that game. I mean, I think that there was a little more to it than just like they didn't come out and play well. They were just decimated. Last year, the Bengals game, they started out great. That wasn't the problem. They had a horrible second half. I give the Bengals a lot of credit for adjusting. Lucas points out they trailed every playoff game by 10 plus points here. They won the Super Bowl. Yeah, I was at the Super Bowl. I thought a lot of that was, frankly, the Niners played really well, and the Chiefs just found a way as the game went on. The Houston game was a tire fire early. The Chiefs just did everything imaginable to blow that game early on. And Tennessee, they did get down, but by halftime, they were winning, and that game was not to be lost. My biggest fear, absolutely, I agree with you, Ian. The red zone defense isn't good. Turnovers, and I mentioned special teams. Those are the things. Now, I will say this. They played Jacksonville earlier, like I mentioned at the top of the show. They were -3 in the turnovers in that game. They gave up an onside kick to start the game. Their turnovers were significant. One of them was a fumbled kickoff. Jacksonville ended up missing a field goal right before half off of it. Another one was Pacheco fumbling at the 5-yard line when they were going in for a touchdown to start the game. It was their first offensive drive. And yet with 5 minutes left, the game was 27-10. The Chiefs had 500 yards of offense, and they gave Jacksonville 4 extra possessions. So I think I'll turn it the other way now because I agree with you. My reasoning for if you want to bet the Chiefs to cover, I do not know how Jacksonville is going to stop them in this game. Like, that is the thing I keep coming back to, because I think Peterson's going to be ultra aggressive on 3rd and 4th down. I think they're going to try to steal some possessions. I think if you're Jacksonville, you understand punting on 4th and 5 from midfield is a death sentence. Like, you might as well just go for it. So I expect them to do those things. And I think because of that, Jacksonville might score some more points. But I also think the inverse is true too. When you do that, you also occasionally are going to give the other team good field position. You're going to give them a better starting point. And I just wonder in this game, is this a game where, look, Jacksonville's pass defense is 28th in the NFL. That's bad enough on its face. Have you looked at the quarterbacks they face most of the season? I mean, they're brutal. So just first of all you need to know is they play in the AFC South. So right off the bat, 6 of their games are against the Colts, the Texans, and the Titans, none of which you can throw the ball. They face Zach Wilson. They face the Giants. They face the Commanders. They face the Eagles, who can throw the ball, but they face them in a monsoon. You look at these, they face Baltimore, who doesn't throw the ball well. The only teams they've played this year who throw the ball well, the Chargers, who to their credit, they handled. The other games were Detroit, who hung 40 on them. Dallas hung 34 on them. The Chiefs went for 500 yards on them. Anytime they've played teams, they played Denver, by the way, who can't throw the ball for crap. You look at any time they've played a team, not named the Chargers, that can throw the football, and those teams have just lit them up. That is my concern for Jacksonville in this game in terms of covering the spread.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of those defensive numbers not good. Now, if you look at the recent defensive numbers over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, actually very good, near the top of the NFL. But what is that? Is that, to your point, is it just they've played weak competition? Because, their last 4 games.
Josh Dobbs and Zach Wilson.
The Jets, the Texans, the Titans.
Right. It's all these teams that just can't. The one team they've played recently can throw the football, score 34 points on them. Just immediately hung 34 on them in the Cowboys.
Well, they did well last week against the Chargers, at least in the second half. Yards per pass attempt gave up 5.9, which is a pretty solid number. And also, is there anything to be said for momentum? I'm kind of back and forth on this. I mean, this is in terms of just wins and losses, I know not exactly the toughest schedule, but one of the hottest teams in the NFL heading into the postseason, coming off a big win last week against the Chargers as underdogs. Is there anything to be said for momentum for Jacksonville?
There is, in the sense that, listen, they're going to come in confident. They've won 6 in a row. They should be confident. To me, that's juxtaposed by that game last week was such an emotional roller coaster. I mean, you're down 27-0, you come back, win the game. If you go back and look at the course of history, when teams have games like that, they typically get plowed the following week. It's just a hard thing to get right back up. Like, for Chiefs fans, of course, will remember this. The Chiefs had that game years ago against the Colts where they blew a 38-10 lead. The following week, Indianapolis went to New England and got absolutely blasted. I mean, it's a hard thing emotionally. Look, I think this game comes down to 2 things. Jacksonville has to be aggressive. I don't see a world where they're not aggressive. They have to be. They know that if they play the Chiefs straight up, they're not going to win this game. So I expect Jacksonville, if it's 4th and 2 on their own 40, I think they're going for it. Like, you're going to punt that ball for what? So Mahomes can just go an extra 40 yards?
Right.
You're going to go for it. Now, that's a double-edged sword. If you don't get it, you could get blown out real quick. I mean, that could be 21-0 at the end of the first quarter, and you're just done. Because unlike the Chargers, the Chiefs aren't blowing a 21-point lead. Okay, now on the flip side, it could keep you in the game and give you confidence. So that's one thing. The other thing is, can Jacksonville do anything against the passing game? I mean, can they slow them down, whether it's by blitzing, whether it's by getting home with 4, which is something they've not done a lot of this year, whether it's in coverage, which, look, their coverage unit is really probably the weak point of their team. Like, can Jacksonville do anything on defense to slow the Chiefs down? Or is it going to be a game where it just, as the game wears on, the Chiefs start to pull away? Maybe at one point it's 14-10 and then 21-13 and then it's like it just becomes an avalanche. I think Jacksonville's gonna hang in the game. But can they actually get it to where it's a nervous time for the Chiefs in the 4th quarter? That I don't know.
I just looked up just because I was curious. I wanted to see how the Chiefs do on defense on fourth down, because like you said, I think the Jaguars are probably going to go on fourth down at any reasonable time. 21st in the NFL in fourth down defense. Teams are converting 57.14% of the time against them on fourth down. Not great, not terrible, but not exactly a great fourth down defense either. So that's a little bit of a cause for concern. Because if the Jaguars convert a few key fourth downs and keep drives alive, it's going to get sweaty.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Before we go any further here and we make our picks, which we're going to do here in a minute, quick promo out there for everybody that expires on Friday, on January 20th, this Friday. We're working with BetMGM for our Arrowhead Addict viewers. Okay. You bet $10 on the Chiefs and win $200 in free bets as long as one touchdown is scored. One touchdown. $10, you win $200, regardless if your bet wins or loses. Enter code Arrowhead, one word, at sign up. This offer ends this Friday. Got to get it done quick. And note, this offer is only valid in Kansas, Illinois, Maryland, and Louisiana. For all other legal betting states, use the same code Arrowhead for a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Using our promo code Arrowhead is a great way to support Arrowhead Addict. We get a small free fee from BetMGM for each new bettor that uses our code. So if you don't have a BetMGM account, do us a solid. Please sign up with the code Arrowhead and place a $10 bet. Now I'm going to read the legalese, and I'm going to do it as they do in the commercials. They speed it up real fast. New customers only, 21 plus and present in select states. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable. Free bets or site credits. Free bets expire in 7 days from issuance. See full terms at betmgm.com. Gambling problem? Call text 1-800-GAMBLER. Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Wyoming. 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado or Kansas. 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 888-789-7777 in Connecticut. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Call or text TN REDLINE or 1-800-889-9789 in Tennessee, or 1-888-532-3500 in Virginia. That's why they pay me the big bucks.
That's quite the read.
Quite damn read. Straight. Damn straight. Hey, if for no other reason, I earned that $10 with that damn read. Come on, go to BetMGM, throw it down. You can do this. And you win $200 in free bets. You put it on the Chiefs next week. Let's ride. All right.
I will say, I love BetMGM, my favorite sports book. So I support this message.
All right, beautiful. And Iain here's a degenerate. He's gambling nonstop. Yes. So there we go.
Fact.
Better be betting on the Devils to beat the Kraken.
I'm actually on the Kraken.
Oh my God! They lost twice on the road all year.
I don't want to derail this too much with NHL, but the Devils' defense has been bad over their last 10 games.
It's not been great, but they went on the road in every game. Come on.
That's true.
All right. They need John Marino back. That's the linchpin. I'm telling you right now. What are your picks for this game? Inform the people. You on the Chiefs? You on the Jags? On the total? What do you got?
I'm not going to be a popular guy here.
Of course you're not.
I've tried to talk up the Chiefs as much as I could, so when we got to the picks, the chat wouldn't just hate me here. I do think the Chiefs win the game. I'll say that, but I am going to take Jacksonville to cover. Okay. Even though they've been playing some weak opponents, I do think they enter the playoffs hot. I think they have been playing their best football that they have been playing all season. Yeah, they've been playing some weak opponents, but they have handled them. You got to play good football. These are still professional football teams. They handled them. They took care of business. Their secondary has looked a little bit better as of recently. And it takes a lot for me to lay more than a touchdown worth of points, especially when you look at the history, as we mentioned at the top, of the Chiefs' history covering spreads of over a touchdown. So I'm going to take the Jaguars plus 8.5 for my best bet. My other one might make me even more popular, or not popular here. I have a player prop for the game. I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes under 315.5 passing yards. Now hear me out for this, because this could go one of two ways, and I think both ways this game could go is going to lead to Patrick Mahomes. And now, first of all, let me say this is an extremely high total. A set total of passing yards in a game of 315 is a high total. Mahomes is averaging 308 passing yards per game, so already that's 7 yards more than his season average this year. The other thing I'll say is I think this game is going to go one of two ways. If this game stays close, The reason being is because the Jaguars secondary plays extremely well and is able to limit Mahomes a little bit in what he can do through the air.
Okay.
The other way this game could go is the Chiefs could just blow them out. Maybe the Jaguars have been a little bit overvalued, in my opinion. Maybe they are coming off this emotional win. Maybe they get blown out. If that's the case, and the Chiefs get up big early, I would expect they're going to run the ball a little bit. There's no need to keep getting Mahomes to throw the ball late in the game. And for someone to throw for more than 315 yards in a game, they need to be throwing from start to finish. If they just turn to the run game in the fourth quarter, it's going to be hard for him to surpass that number. So forgive me, Chiefs fans, but for my bets, I take Jaguars plus 8.5, Mahomes under 315.5 passing yards. But I will say, I think the Chiefs win the game.
Give me a score. What's your score?
27-21.
Okay. It's fair enough. So I put out my picks this morning. When I do it, I just think about it straight up. I don't really get into like the over and everything else. I picked the Chiefs to win 34-23. But I will tell you this. If I was betting on this game, I would not bet the spread. I would bet the total. I would take the over in the game. I would take the over. I think either because Jacksonville plays well and they force the Chiefs to keep scoring, or Jacksonville scores some garbage points late. My most confident thing in this game is the Chiefs are going to score a lot of points. Like Jacksonville might too. I don't know. Maybe Jacksonville can do it. Kansas City's going to score a lot of points in this game. Like I think Kansas City's going to get into the mid to high 30s in this game. They had a bye week. They're great at self-scouting. Andy Reid off a bye is 27-4 in his career. Like they always come out rollicking on offense. And in the playoffs, they always unveil like 12 plays. Like where the hell has that been all year long? I think if they need to score in this guy, I think they're just going to do it. So I would take the over if for no other reason. If the Chiefs, let's say, get to 34, 35 points, I mean, I think Jacksonville is going to hit 20. So I'll go over. I think the spread is, you could argue reasonably either way. I think it'll be around the number 7 to 10 points, somewhere in there. So I'll lay off that.
Let me propose this then. If you think the Chiefs are going to score a lot of points, you can do, and people can follow this BetMGM promo that we're doing and bet on this. You can do team total over. So not full game over. So I'm just looking at a sportsbook right now. Team total for the Chiefs set at 31.5. Do they score more than 31 points?
It's a high number, but
it's a little bit of a high number. It is, yeah.
Jesus. I mean, I would obviously take the over. That's an interesting prop, man. I would. By the way, what is are you looking at the numbers right now by chance? Okay, what is Kelsey's over under in the game? Obviously for receiving yardage.
81.5.
I guess Vegas thinks the Chiefs are going to move the ball about as much as I do. I actually would take the over in that for one reason. Jacksonville plays a lot of man coverage, and ain't nobody covering that guy. Like, and they are going to dial it up for him. So if I had to take a player prop, I might take that.
Let me throw another player prop at you receiving. And Marquez Valdes-Scantling over 30.5. Man coverage, he only needs probably 1 or 2 catches with him being a deep threat, goes over 30.5 yards.
That's interesting. You could go that route. I mean, another one would be McKinnon scoring a touchdown, because the guy scores a touchdown, feels like every game for them this year. I would also take, I don't even know what the number is. I'd probably take the over on Christian Kirk's receiving yardage. I think he has a pretty good game.
66.5.
Oh, yeah, my God, I'd definitely the over on that.
He had a huge game against the Chiefs in the regular season, didn't he? I think that was one of his biggest
he went
games.
over 100 yards.
Yeah.
I think he gets the over. The Chiefs are usually pretty good about, like, if you have a big receiver, and this isn't always true because sometimes they'll go the other way, but a lot of times, like, they'll let that guy have 100 yards, but like nobody else does anything. Like, they'll just completely take everybody else out of the game. So I like Kirk over. I like the Kelsey one, although that is a high number, 81.5, so a lot of yardage. My best bet would be the over on the game. I don't know if the Chiefs cover or not. I think it's right around that number. You know, I said 34-23, but I could see it being 34-27 or something. So I would take the over. I think the Chiefs are going to get in the mid-30s. And I think Jacksonville's at least 20. I mean, I don't see Jacksonville being held down so much that over doesn't hit if the Chiefs are in the mid-30s. So we both think the Chiefs will win. You've got Jacksonville covering. I have the over. And we have about 48 hours, 52 hours until game time. So I will be back 4:30, not 4 o'clock, 4:30 Central Time. I'll be here with the great Sterling Holmes. Patrick Allen is in meetings all day. So he's abandoned us like a fraud. But I will be here with Sterling. We'll go through this entire game from soup to nuts. But thank you, Iain, for being here to break down this thing, because God knows I'd be lost out here on a betting perspective. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it. Go to BetMGM, code word Arrowhead. Do it or you're dead to me. We'll talk later.
Go Chiefs.